So this is the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast on the internet under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo Editions. This is part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel, Baby Angel Geronimo Editions. On Saturday, 11th of November 2023, we didn't broadcast any editions on the 8th of November 2023, 9th of November 2023, or on the 10th of November 2023. Now, the main British so-called political coverage in the so-called media in the last 3 days, has been domestically about the UK Interior Minister, the Cruella, Evila, Suella Fernandez. And internationally, it has been about the perpetration of the criminality, British propaganda against the Palestinians, as typified by the evilness called the Daily Mail, edited by the evilness called Paul Dacre. The protesters demanding an end to the genocidist massacre of the Palestinians by the Zionist State of Israel are protesting not against the Zionist Israeli state's massacre of innocent Palestinian people, but they are doing the protest that is against the end of the hostilities in the 1940s between Nazi Germany and the states that opposed it. Now, that's a grotesque distortion of the facts, typical of the Daily Mail, typical of the dirty digger Rupert. The protests against the Zionist State of Israel carrying out the massacre, genocidist massacre of children, babies, infants, women, and adults, all innocent, all non-combatants, all incapable of combat. These people have been targeted by the Zionist State of Israel, fronted by the evilness called Benjamin Netanyahu. Benjamin Netanyahu is probably the worst face that could be put anywhere near next to any image of the Jewish people. The evilness Netanyahu is a crook. Throughout his political career, at the expense of the people of Jewish origin in the Zionist State of Israel, Netanyahu has been embroiled in crimes and criminality of one description or another. And yet, this evilness is being shown as the savior of the Jewish people. Nothing could be further from the truth. And the British newspapers, typified by the Daily Mail, as I said, and the score the of opinion. Very difficult to find any that could match the evilness, the nastiness, the criminality, the corruption, and the dishonesty of the shit called Jeremy Clarkson. The shit is now claiming to be an expert on the founding aims of the Labour Party, to which he devotes the main space in this column that he has got in this scum. On page 19, the first paragraph of the Clarkson lying reads, when the Labour Party was formed at the beginning of the 20th century, its main aim was to turn Britain into a proto-Marxist state. That's a lie. Clarkson is a racist. Every element of his biology, his DNA, is completely racist, perversion, corruption, dishonesty. What is the Labour Party described as? Let's say Labour Party originated in the late 19th century, meeting the demand for a new political party to represent the interests and needs of the urban working class, a demographic which had increased in number, and many of whom only gained suffrage with the passage of the Representation of the People Act 1884. So this is the Labour Party founding aims, and the result, which took 58 seconds, he's got 68,800,000. There is no reference to proto or Marxist state. Fuck the fucking shit, Jeremy Clarkson shit. So the main entry on the Wikipedia about the Labour Party reads as follows. After that paragraph that I have read, some members of the trades union movement became interested in moving into the political field. And after further extensions of the voting franchise in 1867 and 1885, the Liberal Party candidates in the Sada election of 18. In addition, several small socialist groups had formed around this intention, at the 1895 general election, the Independent Labour Party put up 28 candidates but won only 44,325 votes. K.R. Hardy, the leader of the party, believed that to obtain success in parliamentary elections, it would be necessary to join with other left wing groups. Hardy's roots as a lay preacher contributed to an ethos in the party which led to the comment by 1950 General Secretary Morgan Phillips that socialism in Britain owed more to Methodism than Marx. Fuck Jeremy Clarkson. Shit. Cunt. Ignorant shit. In 1899, a Doncaster member of the Amalgamated Society of Railway Servants, Thomas R. Steels, proposed in his urban branch of the Trade Union Congress call a special conference to bring together all left wing organizations and form them into a single body that would sponsor parliamentary candidates. The motion was passed at all stages by the TUC, and the proposed conference was held at the Congregational Memorial Hall on Farringdon Street, London, on the 26th and 27th February 1900. The meeting was attended by a broad spectrum of working class and left wing organizations. The trades union present represented almost half of the membership of the TUC. After a debate, the 129 delegates passed Hardy's motion to establish, quote, a distinct labor group in Parliament, who shall have their own whips and agree upon their policy, which must embrace a readiness to cooperate with any party which for the time being may be engaged in promoting legislation in the direct interests of labor, unquote. This created an association called the Labor Representation Committee, meant to coordinate attempts to support MPs sponsored by trade unions and represent the working class population. It had no single leader. In the absence of one, the Independent Labour Party nominee, Ramsay MacDonald, was elected as secretary. He had the difficult task of keeping the various strands of opinions in the LRC united. The 1900 general election, also referred to as the Khaki election, soon for the new party to campaign effectively, and total expenses for the election only came to £33. Only 15 candidates were sponsored, but two were successful. K.R. Hardy in Martha Tidfield and Richard Bell in Derby. Support for the LRC was boosted by the 1901 Tough Bail case, a dispute between strikers and a railway company that ended with the union being ordered to pay £23,000 damages for a strike. The judgment effectively made strikes illegal since employers could cost of lost business from the unions. The apparent equations of the conservative government of Arthur Balfour to industrial and business interests, traditionally the allies of the Liberal Party, in opposition to the Conservatives' landed interests, intensified support for the LRC against a government and appeared to have little concern for the industrial potential and its problems. Now, this is Balfour. It's this evilness, Arthur Balfour, who made the declaration in 1917 in his position as Foreign Secretary for the foundation of a state called Israel in Palestine, a Jewish state or state for the Jews. So this shit, Jeremy Clarkson, is completely wrong. Even the Wikipedia, which is way right of center entry, doesn't talk about Marxism or anything to do with that. The Labour Party was a practical proposition, and the foundation of the Labour Party was something that was long overdue. So the Labour Party was founded during the time of the East India Company consolidating the British Empire. Well, the British Empire was being built across the subcontinent, what is now Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. In Britain itself, there was only 2 Labour Party MPs elected. And most of the time, elections, there was no Labour Party member of Parliament at all. How do you explain that? How is it possible to explain that a country whose combined weight was being asserted and forced, inflicted on the people of the subcontinent, didn't have anything in the mainland to remotely compare with one fraction of the place or the geography that was being occupied in the name of the British Empire, the Raj. Did colluders with the East India Company, with Robert Clive, did they have any idea as to the shallowness, as to the complete economic and social, and of course political bankruptcy of the population collectively called the British or the English? So when the East India Company procured the selling out by the crook, the traitor Mir Zafar Ali Khan, century, second part of the 18th century, that could remotely be cited to compare with anything that was happening in the subcontinent. So it was the occupied part of the subcontinent, colonized part, that became bigger in every respect than anything that could be found in the mainland Britain. And how did millions of people, what was the population in the 17th and the 18th century? Let's check the population. At the beginning of the 18th century, India had just 137 million inhabitants. Fuck them. Fuck the Wikipedia or the internet. How can you call it just 137 million? Well, in 1770, population of England and Wales was 7 million plus. 1780, 7,953,000. 1785, 8 million. 1790, 8 million plus. So during the latter half of the 18th century, a debate had developed over whether the population of Great Britain was increasing or stable. If the population was known as Malthusian theory. When I work, Abbott had read to be his private secretary. By the end of the year, Abbott had introduced the population bill. So there is nothing in the e-bill Jeremy Clarkson piece about the founding of the Labour Party. So what is it saying? Now the stupidity of Jeremy Clarkson is exposed in the rest of the piece, which I'm not going to read out. It's in the Murdoch Dirty Digger scum, which I shall post on the Khoodeelaar Twitter and the Facebook platforms in due course. He's saying that the Labour Party, if it gets into power in the United Kingdom, will what is he saying? He's saying that the Labour Party under Keir Starmer will charge people with hate crime. What is this? He's saying so there will be new laws to ensure that danger in a way, or you express displeasure to the road, or you hate crime. Now, where the fuck does he get that from? It's already hard enough for older people to keep up with the changes. I heard that Jeremy Clarkson the shit. 60 years of knowing for sure that women didn't have penises. And then in the past 3 years, I have been told that actually some women do have penises. And I must accept that, or else. And there is more. All of the jokes we laughed at in the 70s will become illegal. All the things we said to our friends, all of the television shows we watched, all the chants we sang at football matches, every WhatsApp we have ever shared, we must forget them all and accept that everything we have ever thought or learned or said or done is now offensive and wrong. That's going to be hard. Let me put it this way. If you look a kind hearted lefty from an urban, uber woke town like Brighton, if you took a kind hearted lefty from an uber woke town like Brighton and made them live in Tehran, they may try to fit in. But at some point, they're going to accidentally do something they didn't even realize was a crime. They will wind up with no head. Now, how did he manage? How did Jeremy Clarkson manage to convert the political murderer of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, as a colluder, collaborator with the Islamic regime of Iran, beheading innocent Westerners? This is sick. This is sick, literally sick. So, this is the kind of journalism, opinions that are to be found in the contents of the likes of the Murdoch scum or the evilness called Paul Dacre, who is all over the place, whose influence is all over the place on the Daily Mail and the Daily Mail group. The Clarkson, the shit, isn't finished with the people who are critical of the conservatives. He's got a piece celebrating Carol Vorderman because Vorderman has lost her spot for Radio Wales. And here is Jeremy Clarkson, the shit, celebrating Carol Vorderman's end of BBC platform, at least on that one. Carol can't shout at Tories forever. It seems Carol Vorderman was given a choice by her employers at the BBC. Carry on with your anti Tory tweets and lose your job, or agree to stop and keep it. Carol had a think and decided she would be off, which I'm sure is very righteous. But I wonder, is it wise? Because we all know that in a year's time, that Tories will be gone. So then she will have no one to shout at and no job. What a stupid, ignorant cunt this Jeremy Clarkson, the filth is. He cannot even understand what Carol Vorderman has been shouting about for the last few years that she has been maintaining a presence on the social media on political issues. Because I believe that Carol Vorderman, on the evidence, is probably the only name that could be called a kind of celebrity person that has been making substantial political, fact based points about most of the rubbish that the conservatives have been doing. And I don't think that Clarkson is right. That if the Labour Party banner is installed as part of the government after the next election, she will have no issues to shout about. Knowing Carol Vorderman's arguments and rationality, I think she will not hesitate to condemn the political murder of the Labour Party in power if she finds that whatever he is doing is wrong. So this is an example on pages 24 and 25 in the scum about the forlorn bird that says, I want mommy. There have been a cockatoo that has been caged in Heathrow Airport for months. This is one of the typical corrupt, cruel British bureaucracy. So this is a cruelty to a bird that has been caged and left absolutely distressed by the criminals at the Home Office, who apparently say, we take the welfare of animals in our care sparingly. How the fuck? Let the Charlie be with his mom, be home, you shitbags. So this is reminiscent of the criminality perpetrated by the DEFRA morons in their campaign of harassment, demonization against baby angel Geronimo. And there is no sign in this piece. I am the usual suspect. That is the cockatoo caged at the airport for months. We must start a campaign to free Charlie. Now, there is this quotation. It says, staff at the private animal facility in Heathrow have been playing the movie Rio on a tablet to calm Charlie. Charlie just said, they say he's been asking, is Charlie a good boy? I can't help but think he's asking because he thinks he's done wrong. How cruel the fucking shits are. Why are they punishing Charlie? Now, going back to there is a reference to international standard. There is no fucking international standards, fucking sheets that says you have to treat Charlie cruelly and deprive him of his home and his company with his mom. Suela Ibila Cruella is such a complete fucking moron that she says in that piece published in the Times that the police favor left wing agitators and troublemakers. Why begin to condemn her? Because as the meetings so-called inquiry has been showing, let's go to the meetings inquiry, yeah? Now here is the short item about the meeting inquiry, which is actually called the Undercover Policing Inquiry, which was set up in 2015. Listen to the audacious claim to get to the truth. How could they get to the truth about the undercover policing across England and Wales since 1968? How do you begin to decry this? Now, the background, it says, in 2015, the then Home Secretary Theresa May announced that there would be a judge-led inquiry into undercover policing. This was in response to independent reviews by Mark Ellison, QC, which found appalling practices in undercover policing. In a statement that accompanied the publication of the inquiry's terms of reference, Theresa May said, undercover tactic fight against crime, but any allegation will not only look at the historical I've added a D which isn't there in the original text. This inquiry will not only look at history to ensure some opening remarks. Okay, so the chairman's opening remarks. Good morning. My name is Christopher Pitchford. I'm a serving Lord Justice of Appeal, appointed by the Home Secretary to conduct an independent public inquiry into chairman of the inquiry. I should be addressed not as my lord, as I would be in court, but as sir. My purpose today is to introduce the inquiry and its team to the public. I'm going to continue to read this chairman's. To this end, I shall first explain the historical background to my appointment, and then I shall have some observations to make as to the way in which the inquiry will proceed. My remarks have been prepared in advance. Copies are available to those who require them, and they will be posted on the inquiry website after this hearing is completed. Squad. In October 2011, Sir Bernard Hogan Howe, the commissioner, ordered a review and investigation. It is called Operation Sesame. A year later, the scope of the review was expanded. This further allegations of misconduct and review and the investigation became Operation Hearn. In February, the Chief Constable of Derbyshire, Mr. Creedon has since delivered 4 reports to the Commissioner. Report 1 and July 2013. Report 2 was entitled Allegations of Peter Francis, was published in March 2014. And Report 3, Special Demonstration Squad Reporting. Mentions of sensitive campaigns was published in July 2014. And Report 4, called Operation Hearn Update, was delivered in February 2015 and had restricted circulation. 18 years after the death of Stephen Lawrence, on 4th of January 2012, 2 men were sentenced for his murder. As a result of the further light case on the investigation into Stephen's murder, as a result of the further light cast on the investigation into Stephen's murder, in a written ministerial statement to Parliament on 11th of July 2012, the Home Secretary, Theresa May, announced that she had appointed Mark Ellison QC to carry out a review of the police. She had appointed investigation into the murder of Stephen Lawrence? For the purpose of examining allegations reported in the media that one, the investigation had been tainted by corruption, and two, the Metropolitan Police Service had failed to make proper disclosure to the McPherson inquiry of that taint of possible corruption. In July 2013, the terms of reference for the Ellison review were extended so as to embrace further allegations more recently made. They included the issues whether undercover policing had played any role in the Lawrence case. If so, who orchestrated it and why? And thirdly, whether undercover police involvement had been withheld from the McPherson inquiry. And fourthly, if so, to what effect? Mr. Ellison was also asked to investigate whether any intelligence or surveillance activity had been ordered or carried out by police forces nationally into Stephen Lawrence's family at the time and in respect of the McPherson inquiry. And what was the extent, purpose, and authorization for any surveillance of Dwayne Brooks and his solicitor? Mark Ellison QC published his report, Possible Corruption and the Role of Undercover Policing in Stephen Lawrence Case, on 6th of March 2014. On the same day, that is 6th of 2014, the Home Secretary made a statement in the House of Commons in which he summarized some of the findings made by Mark Ellison QC and Operation Hearn. So I shall be moving back to the piece published by Private Eye about the meeting state of the inquiry into undercover policing in the next few minutes.